Look, you're gonna have to excuse the state of my hair. I've literally just showered and I've not, like, done anything with it, so just don't bully me, okay? Leave me alone. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're finally doing it. Last week, I uploaded the Dig Out Your Soul reaction, the final Oasis reaction that I will ever upload unless they put out a new album, and today, we're finally doing the ranking video. This is the Oasis finale. This is the final video I will ever make on this band unless they release new music, so you better make the most of it, because after this it's done. First, let's go over some ground rules of what I will be covering today. I will only be talking about full-length studio albums, no compilations like the Master Plan, no live albums like their Nebworth concert that everyone won't shut the fuck up about me listening to, only their main 7 studio releases, all the way from Definitely Maybe up to Dig Out Your Soul. Also, this video is not a tier list like other ranking videos I've made. This is just going to be a worst to best, going from my least favorite to my personal favorite, so I'm not going to be going in chronological order. We're just going to be going in order of which ones I like and dislike the most. Also, as always, this is not an objective ranking. This is just my opinion of which Oasis albums are my favorite and least favorite. I'm not trying to tell you that these are the ones you need to love and the ones that you need to hate the most. It's just me sharing my opinion and hoping to get yours in return, so please share your rankings down below. They're gonna be different to mine because, as you all know at this point, I'm not a big fan of this band and my opinions tend to be very flipped from a lot of other people's. Anyway, with that being said, I think we're just gonna get on with the ranking, starting at number 7 with Yep, that's right. I got the big one at number 7. This is everyone's favorite, and it is unfortunately my personal least favorite. This was the album that started it all for me. This was the first Oasis album that I covered way back in 2023 after I finished my Radiohead series, and this was the first video that really kind of boosted my channel. This was the first one that got any proper attention. I got a lot of hate for this video. I got a lot of angry people in my comments telling me that I was wrong and that I was stupid. And now, coming up on 2 years later, I still fucking hate this album. Now, while I can see why this album would appeal to a lot of people with its very big stadium sound, its focus on hooks and catchiness, and the very particular attitude that the Gallagher brothers bring to this album as well, none of that particularly appeals to me, unfortunately. I just find this album to be a very irritating listen, unfortunately. It's basically a melting pot of all of my least favorite things to come with Britpop. The big standout, there's 2 big standouts. The first one is the production. I think that this album's production is really, really sloppy. Super washed out, fuzzy ass mixing. The overall stadium sound that they go for doesn't feel natural or authentic at all. It feels like they are trying to manufacture the biggest sound possible, and it comes across as very stagnant and emotionless. I think that Liam Gallagher's vocals are fucking intolerable throughout this album. This is some of the worst that they get, full stop, even including the later albums where he starts to really struggle with his voice. And on top of that, it just has some of the least interesting pop songwriting of the 90s to me. I really do not think there is a single hook or chorus that's worth a lick of shit across this album. The lyrics are as paper thin and as bland as that white wallpaper back there, and neither of the Gallagher brothers are able to put across any of the messaging or emotions with any sense of transparency or emotional connection with the audience. I will say that the song Some Might Say has actually grown on me a decent bit though. In my original video I said Cast No Shadow was my favorite and the only good song on the album. I now hate it, but yeah, Some Might Say has actually grown on me to be like a 7 out of 10 song. It's pretty damn fun. But yeah, outside of that one track, this thing does not work for me. I'm feeling a 2.4 out of 10 on this album.
Maybe I don't really wanna know how your garden grows.
That's right, the 2 big ones bottoming the list on this ranking. I told you my opinions differ to most people's when it comes to this band. When I first heard it, I thought this album was fine. It was like 5 out of 10, inoffensive, some fun songs, some songs I didn't like, at a perfect balance. It has shrunk on me so fucking much over time. I will get the positives out of the way. Production is better than Morning Glory by a fucking landslide, even though this album came out before it. I think the instrumentals are way more interesting, and it actually feels like the band give a fuck about how the songs actually sound. And I don't hate Liam Gallagher's vocals as much on this one. It feels like he's putting actual care into the subtleties and isn't trying to be as in-your-face and annoying as possible. But the songs themselves are not good, unfortunately. This album is a chore to sit through, as the songwriting, structuring, pacing, and lack of anything to say on this project make for a truly boring listen. Like, it's not as offensively bad as Morning Glory, but I don't know if that's a good thing, because listening to Morning Glory, at least I can get angry at how abysmally dogshit the choices are, but here I just find myself utterly uninterested. It's not even an album I can get too angry at, because the choices aren't that bold, they don't take too many wide swings, they're just playing it so safe, and as a result, they get big results with this album being like one of the most popular Britpop albums of all time. I don't know, man, I wish this thing was just more adventurous, I wish there was more care put into the songwriting, and I feel like were the band to just tighten these songs up a little bit and have the pacing be a little bit more snappy, this project could easily grow to be like top 3, top 2 on this list. Yeah, I don't know, this album's just shrunk on me a bunch over time, and it only really continues to do so. I'm feeling a 3.8 out of 10 on this one.
'Cause all of the stars have faded away.
You know, people tend to say that I absolutely hate Oasis and that I'm doing it in like the most forced way possible, but this is the last bad album on this list, and we have 4 more albums to talk about after this, so I think that says something about me not just forcing hatred onto the band. This album is better than I expected. The reputation that precedes it is that this is the absolute worst album in their entire catalogue, nothing redeemable about it, dogshit songwriting, terrible across the board. And listening to it, most of the songs on here suck, but there's a handful of not only decent, but even great cuts on here. Stop Crying Your Heart Out is the band's best song, full stop. Stunning, gorgeous ballad, incredible flow, great production. Liam Gallagher sings his fucking heart out on that track as well. Then you get songs like Songbird and She Is Love as well, that were they to be on in the background, I certainly wouldn't skip them. I think they're both solid tracks that kind of just flow nicely in the background. But Better Man, Force of Nature, Hung in a Bad Place, and All in My Mind are what the rest of this album is. Utterly fucking unlistenable ass is what the rest of this album is, ladies and gentlemen. Complete dogshit, incompetent songwriting, utterly garbage performances, and fucking hell some atrocious pacing. It feels like this album was slapped together in a week. It really does not feel like a semblance of care was put into the majority of songs on here. And while the great songs really do boost this a bunch, you remove those great songs and this is the worst album in the band's catalogue. No fucking debate. I mean, holy shit, some of the choices on here are absolutely baffling. Dude, again, fucking Force of Nature. I just need to point out how shocked I was at how fucking dogshit that song was, dude. It was hilarious. Yeah, the production's wildly unbalanced, the writing is egregious and unbearable, and look, this was around the time where Liam Gallagher really started to struggle with his voice as well, so, you know, you get a lot of very strained vocal performances on here that just make me want to, you know, blow my brains out while listening to this. Yeah, I'm feeling a 4.3 out of 10 on this album. You know, it's bad, but, you know, the highlights make it better than the last 2.
My pulse pumps out of me to the ghost dancer.
Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. This was my return to the band after saying I was done with their discography after hearing Be Here Now, and I have to say, I'm glad I returned. This album is middle of the road okay. It isn't good, it isn't bad, it is a straight 5 out of 10, spoiling the score here. Similar to the last album, you got a handful of great tracks on here. You got Go Let It Out, which is really fun. Gas Panic is easily the best song on this album. Where Did It All Go Wrong is a really fun cut as well. And even a couple of okay songs in the mix. I think Fucking in the Bushes is a decent enough opener, and Sunday Morning Call is definitely a very listenable song. But like the last album, there are multiple songs on this project that range from boring to flat out unlistenable. I think the big problem is that a lot of this album was very clearly rushed to meet a deadline. Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is and I Can See a Liar are 2 blatantly unfinished songs that while listening, my jaw was on the floor at how fucking insanely bad they sounded. Songs aren't good, but they're not that bad. Unfinished indeed. What the f Even songs like Little James and Roll It Over that definitely do have a lot of potential never meet that potential because it just doesn't feel like the band cared to fully finish these tracks. Just look at the album cover, man. This thing is a product of just needing to get it over and done with. And that's how the album felt front to back for me, is that I just needed to get it over and done with. I got a handful of decent tracks, and the rest of it was pretty bad. Again, flat 5 out of 10. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just a perfectly mixed bag. And I don't know, I guess that puts it highest on the list so far, but it certainly doesn't make for an album that I come back to.
Fall down, heaven won't help me. I call out, no one would hear.
Don't Believe the Truth is the first point on this list where I actually kind of start enjoying Oasis. I'm gonna get my gripes with the album out of the way first, and that's that I think the first half of this project is pretty shit. Turn Up the Sun is a fine enough opener, but then tracks 2 through 5 are just unlistenable, some of the worst the band has gotten. It sees them doing a shitty attempt at capturing a 60s production style, and it just comes across as tasteless and unimaginative. It just feels like the band window dressing that era instead of actually trying to immerse themselves in it, and I just can't fucking stand it. But then the album kind of takes a complete 180 at the halfway point, and the back half of this thing is genuinely pretty great. Part of the Queue is one of the best songs that the band have ever put out, undeniably. That song is also part of a pretty solid 3-track run, starting from The Meaning of Soul, going into Guess God Thinks I'm Able, and of course finishing with Part of the Queue. And those 3 songs kind of flow into each other brilliantly and kind of create this very immersive and also shocking flip for the album to take. And it even ends on a bang with Let There Be Love, which is maybe the strongest closer that the band have ever created. I will say I'm not as crazy on Keep the Dream Alive. I feel like that song is just kind of a very okay moment in the back half here, but it's certainly not bad, and it certainly doesn't drag the score down of the album too much. If anything, it still brings it up after how bad the first half is. Were the second half of this album to just be like a standalone EP, it would get an 8 out of 10. But you include the first half, and it brings it down to a 5.5 for me. Again, you know, that's above the halfway point, and that puts it in the positive. I'm just very meh on this album due to the first half being as bad as it is.
Tell me I'm free, then you tie me down. And from my chains, I think it's a pity.
Be Here Now is the second most shocking reaction I have ever had on this channel, only beaten out by the number 1 on this list. I went into this thing with no expectations. I went into this thing being like, yeah, this album's probably gonna fucking suck. I'm probably gonna hate it. And I assumed that it would be the last Oasis album I was going to talk about due to that fact. As soon as this album opened with Do You Know What I Mean, I knew we were in for something different immediately. The song had such a great sense of forward momentum. It felt like the band were really bringing in a sense of urgency on this track as well. Absolutely gorgeous backing vocals from Noel Gallagher, and a pretty solid lead vocal performance from Liam as well. Gave me a lot of hope. And then we went into the 3-track run of My Big Mouth, Magic Pie, and Stand By Me. Those 3 songs suck. They're far from the worst in the Oasis discography, but still, those 3 tracks just kind of felt like we were dipping back into that generic, undercooked bullshit that was present on the previous 2 albums. And my hope for the rest of the album being solid kind of started to drain out of me a little bit. But after that, we got a fucking fire 3-track run of I Hope I Think I Know, The Girl in the Dirty Shirt, and Fading Out. Those 3 songs saw the band taking on a completely new attitude, a completely new production style, and just creating fun music. None of the annoying whiny bullshit, none of this overemphasis on trying to be as popular and as broad appeal as possible. They just found a distinct voice. Now, the album does kind of reach a bit of a plateau moving into the final half. Don't Go Away, Be Here Now, All Around the World, and It's Getting Better Man are very meh songs. I don't dislike them, but they're all cruising in like the 5-6 out of 10 range of me just being kind of uninterested. And then the actual very final moments, the return of All Around the World is pretty solid. I think it's a nice, sweet way to close the project off. But yeah, I think this album is a big step up coming from Definitely Maybe and What's the Story, Morning Glory. This album sees the band taking this like brick-walled production style, which a lot of people surprisingly seem to dislike on here. I think it's personally pretty great. And kind of using it to make songs that feel punchy, that feel like they actually are impacting the listener, that feel like the band are putting genuine care in. And as a result, it makes for a very listenable and even enjoyable album. I'm feeling a 6.1 out of 10 on Be Here Now. Here we go, top of the list, top of the list. At number 1, we have...
Summer sun that blows my mind is falling down on all that I've ever known.
Holy shit, ladies and gentlemen, I really like this album. In fact, I would even go as far as to say, I love this album. This is Oasis stripping away all the Britpop. This is Oasis stripping away all of the reliance on 60s aesthetics and making a great, fun rock album. This thing is heavy, this thing is aggressive, it's fast-paced, it's mean, it pulls no punches, it sees the band at their dirtiest and their most Western, and honestly, it makes for such a fun experience. This is the only Oasis album without a bad song. There is not a single song on here that goes below a 5 out of 10 for me. I think at this album's absolute worst, it's like, you know, it's fine, it's okay, I can see the vision, but it just didn't quite hit for me. That is the worst this album gets. And at its best, it is an incredible, thrilling rock experience that see the band going apocalyptic, it sees them getting even a little bit conceptual, it sees their chemistry at its absolute strongest, even though there was such high tensions in the band at the time. And all of that combines into this gorgeous, aesthetically pleasing, but also fucked up and menacing project to listen to. There wasn't a single moment of this album where I didn't have a smile on my face. Even at the weakest points, I was still like, wow, that's the worst this album is gonna get, is just me not being too crazy on it. That is impressive as fuck. Handful of gripes I could maybe have about this thing. I wish the production was maybe a little bit thicker. I wish that some of the weaker songs were maybe shortened down a little bit. But still, seeing Oasis try and capture the sounds of the 60s and now the 70s as well, without trying to rely on the aesthetics of those eras and creating their own unique sound, is something beautiful to experience, and I'm glad we were able to get at least one album out of this version of the band. This album even gives me hope that were the band to return with another full-length album, maybe if they kept in this direction, it could genuinely be great, and maybe even their best. I am feeling an 8 out of 10 on this album. That's right, a flat 8. It easily lands itself as being a great album, and that is something I've wanted to say about Oasis since I started listening to them when I covered Morning Glory. This album fucks hard. It's great, it's heavy, it's abrasive, it is easily the most accessible listen in the band's discography as well, and it sees them taking a more artistic spin and kind of carving out their own niche finally, and I'm so glad that they were able to do that on at least one project. And yeah, that is it. We have ranked every single Oasis album. That's the end of the Oasis series until they drop a new album, which they probably will. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know what your ranking of all their albums would be down below in the comments. Again, I want to see what people's thoughts on this band are, considering they are such a divisive project. Check out my reactions to each and every single one of the albums listed in this video in the playlist at the end of the video here, or you can find them all on my channel. Like and sub if you haven't. We are on our way to 3K. Links in the description to my Discord, my album of the year, my Twitter, and my other channels. Check those out if you haven't, and I'll see you all whenever I next stream or upload. Bye bye.